Yeah, the secret of success is to surround ourselves with people that are getting the results that you want for yourself. And then here's a big word, today.
Get attitude means, how can I proactively change the way I think? How can I proactively increase my life? How can I proactively create better relationships and better work situations for me to enjoy it?
And welcome to the GAP, the Get Attitude Podcast, The Gap, bridging the gap from who you are to who you want to be and from where you are to where you want to go. Hello, my name is Glenn Bill, Keynote Speaker, founder of the University of Attitude and author of the international best-selling book, The ABCs of Attitude. I've been fortunate enough to help tens of thousands of people get attitude, the secret formula to success in your business and in your life. And this podcast is going to help you get yours. So let's get some. I want to welcome everybody. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. And I'm telling you, we have a guest today that is going to blow your mind. We are covering love adversity, booster number 8, love adversity. And this gentleman, Mr. Reid, is somebody that you are going to want to listen to. You're going to want to share this podcast. And if you got people that are down in your life that aren't sure that they can make things happen, you're going to want to forward this podcast to them. Greg is going to talk to us about 3 Feet from Gold, which is a tens of millions of sales with that program. He's been in 100 different books, 45 different languages. He's got an honorary doctorate degree from Lamborghini. He is currently trending on Netflix. He is an international keynote speaker. And most of all, the coolest thing that he does, or that he has done, is he has a star on the Walk of Fame. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and it is your pleasure to be listening to the one and only Reid. Greg, welcome to the Get Attitude Podcast.
And then the crowds go, wow!
Yeah! You can feel it. You can feel it. Now, Greg, where are you? Tell us where you're talking to us from today.
Yeah, the main streets of San Diego, California, a little beach town community called Carlsbad.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, now is that close to Coronado?
Well, it's in the same city, absolutely. So it's a little bit more north, but I got to tell you, it's one of the greatest little spots you could ever imagine. And anyone ever driving through, you got to stop by, say hi, and I'll take you through the library.
Very good. I'd love to do that. Tell me, where did you grow up? Where were you born? Are you originally from there, or did you move there?
No, I'm born and raised. I'm one of the few. I always call it West Coast. No, I grew up in another little beach town community called Del Mar, maybe 10 miles away from me. And so I've always lived really close to a coastal lifestyle.
I love it. So were you always, and I'm guessing, like guys, gals, Reid does a lot. Were you always ADD, high energy, and always doing 50 different things at once? Was that always your attitude? Or is that something that you morphed into?
Nah, I used to get in trouble for it in school, like all of us, and now I get rewarded and paid. So it's one of those funny things. When I was a kid, I'll tell you a quick little story. I was 17. I was leaving the house, and my dad goes, go to college. We'll send you anywhere in the world you want to go. I says, no. I go, I just want to get into sales and marketing. I go, I love communicating. I love the idea of closing sales. And he looked at me and said, son, you're never going to make a living talking to people. And here we are now, all these years later, and I'm glorified for it. So go figure.
Right. And obviously, you're not making a living. You are making a freaking fortune talking to people. So you know what? Your father was right when we talked about it. Yeah, there you
go. And more importantly, I'm making an impact and a difference. And, you know, it's kind of interesting. When you get into personal growth, the pesky thing is that growth part, right? Because we're always learning and growing. And we always say, you know, if I could impact one person's life, I've done my job. Well, once you've done that and done it tens of thousands of times over, a million times over, it starts changing its paradigm. Now it's like, how can we make the greatest impact in the greatest way possible?
Right. And number 7 on our attitude boosters, which I forgot when we were talking earlier, was grow or die. So as is what happens with most of our guests, you are probably going to talk and hit on all 10 attitude boosters, but we're going to focus on loving adversity, and we're going to walk with you on this journey called 3 Feet from Gold. So as far as I'm concerned, let's get there, because I know the content is ridiculous. Tell us what 3 Feet from Gold is all about, and how it's changed your life, your business, and how it could change the people who are walking on the beach, maybe right now, sitting in their car crying and depressed because maybe they've got a financial or a personal reversal going on in their life. People listen to the Get Out Attitude podcast because they want attitude. So share with us about this wonderful thing called 3 Feet from Gold.
Well, I'll start with this. Have you ever heard of a book called Think and Grow Rich?
I have, yes.
All right. So in 1908, Napoleon Hill was given a letter of introduction from Andrew Carnegie to meet all of his friends. He sat down and wrote the first ever formula for success. 100 years later to the date, the Napoleon Hill surviving family, grandkids, and the foundation gave me that same exact type letter. And so I have a Willy Wonka ticket to meet any human alive. And the very first project we did was called Think and Grow Rich, 3 Feet from Gold. It's the story about Arden Darby, who literally gave up 3 feet away from the largest strike in history. And the moral is, how many times have we or someone we know quit one class short from a degree or sales or marketing? Right. It's easy to quit. But it's the people that persevere and go that extra little bit, they're the ones that come out on top. First, there's a dream, then there's a challenge, and then comes victory. We only tell the stories and write the songs about the people that kept going. And 3 Feet from Gold is a classic little parable to help separate the 95% who dream of success to the top 5% who do it.
And so what do you think when you talk about love adversity, right? So I love adversity. The more shit that goes wrong, the better for me, because I know it separates us. It separates us from the masses. Tell me, number 1, do you love adversity? And number 2, how do you look at adversity? And number 3, if it's okay, what do you do to overcome adversity? Or what would you say, hey, here's a couple things you should try, you should consider? What's the formula to get through whatever adversity is going on in the life of the people that are listening today?
Yeah, first of all, I embrace the fact that I have survived 100% of every adversity I've faced so far.
Great.
So if I'm batting 1,000, I've got pretty much confidence that this too shall pass and I'll get through it.
Yes.
But more importantly, I also am a realist. Every time I've crashed my car, I've got a better car. Every time I lost my apartment, I got a better house. And every time I've got divorced, I've met a better spouse. So the bottom line is that every time something weird happens to me, I'm that oddball that goes, woohoo, something good's coming around the corner. And I start looking and capitalizing on it. I'll tell you the first story of 3 Feet from Gold. I interviewed a guy named Dave Liniger. You might not know him, but you'll know his business.
I know Remax.
Yeah, he goes, I wanted to get started in the industry, but it was brutal. He goes, all the money ran out. For 3 years, every phone call that came in was from a bill collector. He goes, I had the courage to pick up the phone and call the bill collectors and said, look, all the money's gone. I'm broke. I don't have 50 grand, but I'll send you $50. Don't give up on me. Right. He says, I called every bill collector every month until the 4th year. Someone finally believed in me and bought the first business called Remax Real Estate. He goes, how many people's lives were changed because I wouldn't quit? And how do we know someone listening to this isn't about to give up on their own dream? Because Visa was calling them this morning.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That's, I mean, they had over 120,000 agents. And, the real estate space is as everything is. Everything. It's like the disruptors are now getting disrupted. I was with a client just yesterday, and he said, here's the question you need to ask yourself. How do you disrupt Amazon, right? And it's like, I don't know about you. My guess is, and I have books with Amazon, but there's a lot of people not happy being a customer of Amazon, and they're doing everything they can to get out of it. And it's like, wow, what a question. What is your thought about creating disruption, the companies you've represented when it comes to disruption, being disrupted? What's your thoughts on that for those people whose companies are getting disrupted, who are maybe getting fired, laid off, downside? A lot of that going on. Give me the whole thought on disruption and what that means to you and what it looks like.
Well, it's adaptability and adjustability. And
Right.
that's what it comes down to. If you're not willing to adapt and adjust, you'll end up getting stuck. And that's what we've seen time and time again. Look, back in the day, Sears Roebuck was exactly Amazon, and now there are no more. Everything has a life cycle. And if you don't adapt and adjust to going times, that you'll end up dying and shrinking. The reason why Amazon is growing so much is they're constantly adapting and adjusting to the modern times. I'll give you an example. When I grew up, my favorite toy story was called Toys R Us. I mean, everyone grew up with Toys R Us, and they went bankrupt because they would not adapt and adjust. Could you imagine if Toys R Us started their own little, Comic-Con, but it was like a toy con, and they became the leading, competition for Legos building and things of this nature? They would still be the giant conglomerate. But if you're not willing to adapt and adjust, you'll end up just getting stuck and perish.
Right. Now tell me, when you mentioned about being a little kid, did you have any siblings that affected your attitude?
No, not really. But I had a little brother, but the fact of the matter is we had two different outlooks on everything. I was one of those entrepreneur kids. Look,
Right.
I realized really quick as a child that my neighbors wanted their yards mowed for $10. So I hired the neighborhood kids for $5 to mow it for me. And that's just the mentality I've always had.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, did you get professionally trained in college, or did you say, yeah, I'm starting my own business? And what I'd love to know is, what was your first business where you maybe, let's say, made $1 million, or tell me about the first time you made $100,000.
Well, so back to the original story, I never went to college. Again, my dad wanted me to go. I wanted to get into sales and marketing. But I had a bucket list of 80 different items. And a year ago, I got the last one off, where I got a couple honorary PhDs, where Tonino Lamborghini and I flew to India, and we were awarded these degrees where we did the university commencement speeches all around the country.
Wow.
And to answer your question, from age 20 to 40, I was only in one business. I was in sales and marketing. And I grew my business. I started my own, and I grew up and sold it for my first millions of dollars when I was 39. And what's interesting about that is that people said, "Hey, how did you do it?" I'm going to do one of these things like there's no Santa Claus. Look, I cannot really read. I can't write. I'm dyslexic and I can't spell. Play me Words with Friends, you'll win every time.
Right.
But I'm an award-winning author with a star on the Walk of Fame for being so, and here's how I did it.
Right.
Work your strengths and hire your weaknesses. Stop bitching and complaining about what you don't have, and find a way to fill that gap. So I found the greatest ghostwriters and copy editors that could take my gift of gab and create it in a way people would want to read. And here we are 100 titles later.
Yeah, that's cool. So tell me about, everybody listening on this, and we have a few celebrities that may have a star on the Walk of Fame, but I doubt it. Anyway, how cool was that? What was the project that maybe put you over the edge that maybe all of us know? What could we look up on YouTube to go, holy crap, that's why he's at? What was that whole experience like, man, when they told you you're going to have a star? And tell us some of the projects that went into the critical mass to make that happen.
Well, again, there's been a ton of it, but recently, when I was awarded the star, it was really cool. I did it alongside Frank Shankwitz. Because I helped make his dream come true. A lot of people know of a nonprofit called Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Sure.
It grants wishes to terminally ill kids. Well, I was interviewing him for one of my books, and I asked him what his wish was, and he said no one ever asked him. I said, well, I will grant your wish. Anything you want, I'll give it to you. And he says, I just want my story to be told so my grandkids will know I did something.
Wow.
So he signed over his life rights, and I said, I'll make it into a major feature film, but just know I've never made a feature film. But he trusted me, and it took 6 years, millions of dollars, but we just finished it last year, and we made the official ballot for the Oscars this last Oscar season.
Wow.
And we're trending worldwide right now on Netflix, and the movie's called Wishman.
Wishman. Really? And is he the founder of Make-A-Wish?
Yeah, and so I got the rights to tell his story. So think about it from my perspective. Here's Napoleon Hill, wrote Think and Grow Rich.
Right.
I was given the opportunity to follow in his footsteps and to share his message to a modern society.
Mm-hmm.
And then the founder of Make-A-Wish, I was honored to be able to tell his story to the masses worldwide, to millions upon millions of people. And the reason we do this is because I think more people now are following a movement than gurus.
Sure.
Like, no one wants to follow another guy on top of a soapbox telling you, you should do this, you should do this. So I like to put the spotlight on other people and really honor them in a huge way.
So who are some, who's the most famous person you ever got to interview, and what was the best thing they taught you?
I don't even think you grasp the context of the question. So, wow. I don't even know. So it's so funny. I created something. It's called the switchboard.
Right.
And I say that because this is my little thing that actually connects people. So I have access to everyone from, the guy who invented the elevator to space to the guy who started NASCAR, from Presidente Vicente Fox just came to my last event, to Edward Snowden. I just did a private Skype and hiding in Russia. I've taught the Pulp Fiction dance with John Travolta during Grammys night, all the way to I proposed to Halle Berry last year on stage. I don't know. There's so many, but what's cool is they're just cool people.
Yeah.
And, that's the whole thing. How do you surround yourself with, kick-ass people that are doing what you want to do?
And so for those of us, one of the things I certainly know, and I know you know, that Americans especially have no idea how attracted they are to celebrity, right? It's like, they'll do anything. So how do you keep your shit if you're a normal guy like us and you meet a celebrity and you don't want to screw up that encounter, right? What's the advice for normal Joe, and then all of a sudden Halle Berry's walking down the street, or whoever it might be? What would your thought be? What would your coaching point be? Hey, guy, if you run into celebrity, here's how you're not going to screw it up. Here's how I would approach things. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, everyone's got a different approach, by the way. In Hollywood, unfortunately, you do want to do a resume interview. I won't do it, but that's the way that they teach you to do it. So you go up and tell that person how your resume, which I would never do.
Sure.
But that's what I want you to do. For myself, I always ask usually unique and mind-altering questions.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, you get a different response. I'll give you an example. One of my greatest interviews, because it was so weird, was the guy who started NASCAR. And I was sitting in his office with all these lights and cameras. And I'm from San Diego. I don't even know what NASCAR is. We don't have it down here. And I had no idea how big it was. And I was sitting in his office, and the interview was going bad. And so I stood up and did a pattern interruption that says, you know what? This is the worst interview I ever did. He goes, what? I go, I just wasted all my time flying across the country. I think I'm done. And we stood up and started taking off our microphones. I go, hey, by the way, let me ask you something. And he goes, what? I go, when you got that first cardboard check, with $1 million on there? I go, what did your mom say? And he goes, you know what? She told me to take out the trash. She didn't even care. But my dad, he was proud of me. And he sat down and just started relaxing. And then he reached in his pocket and he pulled out a tattered piece of paper. And I go, what's that? And he goes, it's the Cowboys Ethics Code of the West. This is how we created NASCAR. And he go, what do you mean? He goes, I've never left home without it. This is how I did it all. And I go, describe it. And he says, well, it says, say less, but speak less, but say more. Do what's right for the brand. He goes, for example, when, Winston Cup was so big, kids were coming out and we didn't want to promote smoking. So we got Tide as the sponsor, and we started adapting and adjusting, and this is what grew. And as I walked out of that interview, which turned out to be spectacular, the vice president of NASCAR pulled me aside and says, I've been working with him for 25 years. And I never knew he had that piece of paper in his pocket every day.
Wow, that's good. Well, and I always tell people in the interview process or in sales and marketing, what you always want people to say is, oh my God, nobody's ever asked me that before. That's when you know you're getting ready to strike gold, right? So,
yeah.
So tell me this, how do you define attitude, and what does attitude mean to you?
Well, again, Abraham Lincoln had a great quote. It says, people are as happy as they make up their minds to be. And I believe that to be true. So if you meet me today, tomorrow, last week, whatever, I always have the same attitude. Again, as a kid, I was yelled at because I had a prima donna or the pink cloud syndrome, but that's how I live my life.
Right.
I choose to look for what's possible. So for example, if there's a big pile of, horse poop, I know there's a pony somewhere, and I'm always looking for the pony.
Now, who do you think affected your attitude the most in your life?
I've had great mentors in my life, and one person was really huge, and it sounds cliche. I almost feel weird saying it, but in my case, it's true, is my mom. She was a great teacher of mine, and she would tell me I could do anything I put my mind to, and I was crazy enough to believe it. again, look, I barely graduated high school. I can't read, can't write, but I pulled off more accomplishments than a lot of people because I'm crazy enough to think that I can do it. But the way I do it is I surround myself with people that have already accomplished what I intend to do. And I ask them for feedback. Here's the greatest aha from 3 Feet from Gold. Have you string theory, the guy who invented string theory? If you ever watched Big Bang Theory, Sheldon was trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who created it told me a greatest lesson. He said, successful people seek counsel and failures listen to opinion. I said, what's the difference? He goes, opinion is based on ignorance, lack of knowledge, or inexperience, where counsel is wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. If you go to a family friend and say you're going to write a book, they might talk you out of it to protect you. Plus, they've never written a best-selling book.
Right.
If I go to Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, he's going to say, before you get started, here's what you want to know and give me counsel.
Mm-hmm.
If we would spend our activity only seeking counsel and ignoring opinion, that's the day your life would change.
I love the fact, and it is cliche. Yeah, I learned it from my mom, right? And so when I keynote speak, I did a huge keynote right before all this hit, and I just looked at him. And I do this thing about motherhood, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just give you just lead like a mother, right? Lead like a mother, love like a mother, and have loyalty like a mother. What was your mother's name? I'd love to know her name and her maiden name, and what was her story in general? Where did she come from?
Yeah, Dr. Mary Gail Heinrichsen. And what's really cool about her is at 50 years old, she didn't even have a high school diploma.
Wow.
She was an entrepreneur who made millions of dollars. And just like me, she kind of wung it. And she decided to go back to school and got a GED and then got her diploma. And then she got a bachelor's, and then she got 3 masters and then a PhD. Wow. And now she's a clinical psychologist.
Wow. And so she was a millionaire before she did all of that?
Oh, yeah.
And what business was it?
Temporary help industry plus real estate.
Okay.
So when she was 20-something years old, she was like one of the first women ever to walk into a bank to get a home loan. And they said, well, where's your husband? She says, well, he's probably at work, but I'm just doing this myself. And the realities are, it was hard for her to even get loans at the very beginning because it wasn't done back in that time.
Sure.
And in the 50s. And what's interesting is that she always looked at what's possible and not the obstacle in front of her.
What was the most adversity you've ever faced, either personally or professionally? And how did you get through that?
Well, every project I take is adversity because I don't know anything about the industry when I start. So, for example, when I wrote my first book, it was called The Millionaire Mentor. I was turned down by 268 publishers, agents, distributors in a row. Wow. And the 269th one said, we'll do your book, just change the title, the beginning, the middle, and the end. Again, I can't write. So I got a ghostwriter who breathed life into it, and it went on to become a global best-selling international book, selling gadillion copies. And that was the platform that started me to 100 books later. But if I would have quit after 50 or 80 or 100 or 212, I wouldn't have got to where I am. And it's the stickability factor that always keeps me going. Making a movie, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Again, it took 6 years, trials, tribulations, ups, downs, everything. But now we're a success. People, when you look at the success, they have no idea the journey behind it. And I never tell people when I'm in it. Here's what I learned. If you tell people the drama that you're going through when you're in the middle of it, you're just bitching and complaining. But when you come out the other side and tell people what you just went through, you look like a hero.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? And that's Zig's old saying that, yeah, when you bitch and complain, 80% don't care and 20% are happy that you're actually going through it, right? So
absolutely.
Nobody cares about that. And so, I love how you said, when we have that imagery of bridging the gap and crossing that bridge, I almost feel like you were never at the foot of the bridge because you always saw yourself at the other side of the bridge. You know what I'm saying? Like, yep. Was there any time in your life where you said, woe is me, or I can't do it, or, man, I'm in a really shitty position? Like, has that ever been in your mind or in your life ever?
Well, all of that, except I just don't listen to it for more than seconds.
Nice.
I mean, the whole idea is we all have stinking thinking. Look, here's a fact. A guy named Bob Proctor,
sure.
He's famous for being the secret. He and I wrote a book together, Think and Grow Rich, Thoughts Are Things,
right.
where we went around and interviewed everyone from Holocaust survivors to the guy who started JetBlue Airlines to find out how thoughts become things. And we realize that thoughts are not things. Only thoughts backed by action become things. Harvard scientists proved to us that we have 64,000 thoughts a day, and majority of them are called ants, automatic negative thoughts. They're the reptilian part of your brain to protect you, to keep you safe. So if you walked out of a cave, a dinosaur wouldn't eat you. Well, the bottom line is that if 64,000 thoughts, majority negative, everything would be chaos for our life if thoughts were things.
Sure.
But it's only the thoughts we take action on become our reality. So I'm very careful not to buy into the thoughts, and I take action towards the positive ones.
That's good. And if you're listening, we are here with Dr. Greg Reid, and man, you've been dropping some bombs on us. And for those of you who are sitting there searching and saying, how do I get from where I am to where I want to be, and from who I am to who I wish to become, you can find Greg. It's Greg Reid TV now, correct? Is that?
No, just gregreid.com.
gregreid.com.
Yeah.
And he's got.
Or go to Instagram, Greg S. Reid. Follow me.
Good. Boom. We got it up there. Well done. That's Jason, my producer, bringing it home, right? You see that, Greg? Is that good? All right.
It's like that magic time.
It's magic time. And I love the red coat because that's the color of attitude for us, the color of fire, the color of passion, the color of love, and the color of attitude. So that's an awesome blazer. I have one myself, but I really like the black trim on that lapel. Very nice. We are getting ready to do Knowledge Through the Decades. Greg is a influencer. He's a worldwide sensation, best-selling author, filmmaker, published in over 100 books. This guy's spitting knowledge. And if you have been listening, I am sure that you got some attitude from Greg today. And boy, can't we all learn to adapt? Can't we all learn to embrace what Greg's telling us? Just one thing I didn't get to that I wanted to make sure we did was this thing called CPC that I think our gappers, that's what we call them, our gappers, they need to know this. So please tell us a little bit about what's going on with CPC.
Yeah, a year ago, I wrote a book called Wealth Made Easy, and interviewed people worth $100 million to $1 billion for 3 years. Just sat down with the most, top 1%. And I realized that they taught me something called CPC. It stands for Clues, Patterns, Choices. This is the single most powerful tool that I can use in business and life today, and I'm going to share it with everybody. It's about accountability and responsibility for every single thing that happens. Stop blaming other people. And it works like this. If I go out on a first date, I'm a single guy, and the woman shows up 20 minutes late, that's a clue. If I go on the second, third, and fourth date, and she's 20 minutes late each time, that is a pattern. Now, it is my choice. I deal with it, adjust it, yell at her, break up with her, whatever, but it's not her fault.
Right.
She's just late. It's not my job to change her. Right. How many times have we seen someone with a bad reputation in business, then they cheat a friend of ours, and then we do business with them because we think it'll be different this time. And when things go sour, we're mad at that person. We saw the clue, we saw the pattern, but we made the choice. We got to sleep in our own bed. It's the same thing as seeing a rattlesnake rattle, bite your kid's sister, and then you go to pet it, it bites you, and you're mad at the snake. Right. It is time to start having accountability and responsibility to pay attention to clues, patterns, choices.
I love it. And we talk about attitude awareness. And it's important to look at the clues, patterns, and choices of others, but isn't it really the most important to look at the clues and patterns of yourself? Oh my God, I'm eating a whole cake again. Oh my God, I just drank a half a fifth of scotch. That's a pattern, right? And so that's like $1 million piece of business advice that our gappers just got for free. So that's just so cool. So now we're going to do this thing called Knowledge Through the Decades, okay? And this is just fun. We can edit this out. I'm going to put you on the spot. I just want you to speak from your heart and your gut. And what we do is we take you through your life, and you're in your 50s, so we're going to take you from 0 to 50. And we're just going to walk you in decades and ask you what the attitude lesson of that time in your life was, and or maybe it's not in your life, maybe it's in somebody else's. So what I want to ask you, Greg, is this. I don't know if you remember, but you're nuts enough that you may remember being born, but what's the attitude lesson of newborn, of birth, or of a nephew or niece or a baby that you ever saw? I think you said you have a child, right?
I have an 8-year-old kid, and I would say it's the naivety of that everyone's born in this world. They're not Christian or Muslim. They're not black. They're not white. They're nothing. We're trained. And so every thought that we have is something that we've been conditioned to. And so when I think of a newborn, I think of a clean slate of an opportunity to let them think on their own and give them all the information so they can choose wisely.
Right, that's beautiful. We haven't had that answer, and we've had a lot of people. I love it, the naivete and the clean slate. And you know what? Who's to say that every morning that you wake up, you just shouldn't be reborn and start with a clean slate and get rid of all the crap that has been hitting you? So that's beautiful. Now, you were 10 years old. I'm sure you were very annoying. That put you in about 3rd grade. I'm sure your teachers are like, what am I going to do with this kid? Do you remember being 10? I'd love to know what school you were at. If you remember your teacher, would love to know if you got her name. And what was the attitude lesson you learned at 10 years old? And I think that puts you in about 3rd grade.
Yeah, she had an initial P. I don't remember, like Mrs. P. I don't remember her name. And I do remember it was, again, here in San Diego along the beach. And it was really cool because, our view was the ocean where we could go watch the sails, the whales come by and things of this nature.
Wow.
But I also remember all my report cards. I was always feeling fearful because I knew I would get such bad grades. I remember I got D's, F's, C's my entire life. I've never had a straight A report card ever in my existence of being on this planet. And I always thought that I was what people claimed I would be on my report card. But I knew in my heart of heart, I wasn't what they were defining me as.
Ooh.
And it was a frustration feeling of going, yeah, but that's not me. And right now there's a thing like on the internet that says, look, just because a fish cannot climb a tree doesn't mean the fish is stupid. It's just not in its element. And that's how I felt.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure you studied Les Brown. One of his big sayings is to never let somebody's opinion become the definition of you. And for our gappers out there, some of you may be suffering. What may be holding you back from crossing the bridge to who you want to become or to where you want to go is maybe it's quite possible that you feel just like Greg did, is that other people's opinions, other people's projections, that's what's holding you back. But you feel deep down inside that, you know what? I'm not what other people say, and I am more than how I'm being defined. So I'm going to go create my own definition. And Greg, you knew that at 10, which is lucky for you because there's people walking around our age who still fight that, which is crazy.
I agree. And by the way, Les Brown baptized my son.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's one of my closest friends.
Oh my gosh! Well, I attended a 4-day deal with Les, and he's just so powerful. And he walks up and he puts his hand. He says, "You are anointed. You are anointed. You need,
is that great?
You need to do this.
Inside of you.
You need to do this, Glenn Bill. I'm telling you." And then he opens his eyes, and I'm like, "Oh shit! I better get on that stage, baby." But yeah, I came strong to Les's thing. He recognized me, and he's unbelievable. He's meant so much to me. Period. So now you're through puberty, you're through high school barely, and now you're 20. Can you remember, number one, your 20 or 21st birthday? And love to know what you were doing at 20, which I think I know the answer. And then what was the attitude lesson, man? If you walked yourself back to being 20, what did you learn?
I was a party, unbelievably messed up 20-year-old. So it was interesting. I remember my 21st birthday going into TGI Fridays or whatever. And I was so proud because, I was getting drinks for everyone. And the bartender was so mad at me because I'd already been going there with a fake ID for years. And the fact that I was actually 21, he goes, "You could have got me in all this trouble." And then when I was 24, I got sober. And by the way, just celebrated 32 years.
Hey, congratulations. Only control.
You asked that defining moment, but I forgot it until you just asked.
Oh, that's awesome. So that 21st birthday was obviously a shitstorm. And that was I'm sure no wonder you're so happy, right? No booze for that long. That's such a huge, I always believe I've been through AA and I've taken a lot of people to AA. I still drink. But it's like, why aren't we teaching that in high school? Like the principles.
If nothing else, it's the process and the steps. Like, I'm not a Bible thumping guy.
Right.
I'm not a big AA guy. I just happen to believe for myself that's what I needed. So I never project, and I very rarely share even what I just did. So that was a sneak glimpse of something
that's cool. Well, and we're grateful and congratulations, because I know that that's, my guess is half of my listeners probably wish they had the token. Okay, so the 20s were good, and so now you're clean, you're clear, you're like, I'm going to start to kick some ass, and then boom, you hit 30. So like, where were you at 30? What were you doing at 30, and what was the attitude lesson at 30? I'm guessing that's when you were ramping up hard.
Yeah, 30s 30s were great. 30s to 40s, well, actually all of it's been great, but the 30s were awesome. I was running a company. I got headhunted in my same industry. And I was like late 20s, early 30s, and they put me in charge of like 68 employees plus a whole manufacturing thing. And they gave me this giant office, a company Ferrari, a Porsche, stock options.
Oh my God.
And I remember I had this giant office, and I put a conference table as my desk. And then I made stairs where you had to walk up into my office because it was all that ego. And this girl, she was 18 years old, and she walks up and she goes, "Is this your office?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Is that your red Ferrari?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Is this your table?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Your penis must be this big." And I looked at her, I go, "I don't know you." I go, "But you just changed my life." And I go, "Thank you." And I wish I knew who it was to this day.
Awesome.
And she walked out, and I called the staff and said, "Come take this table out thing." That's the day everything changed. That's the day my life changed, because I stopped living a dream that I saw on, Wolf of Wall Street type of stuff.
Sure.
And I started becoming the person I wanted to be rather than the person I wanted the world to be projected.
Yeah, man, that is like so powerful. So one of the things I always tell people is, and your world changed because not at a Tony Robbins seminar, because a normal person walked in and said something to you. And I think that a lot of us have had our lives changed when somebody makes an offhand comment who's not famous, who's not considered, a prophet or whatever. Just a normal everyday Joe has said something that, boom, changed your life. One of the things I want to do is get those stories and publish that, because it's so true that, what you say to somebody could be life-changing, and I think we all need to know that we have that power within us each and every single day without even trying, Yeah,
and everyone you meet will know something you don't know. But back to the Tony Robbins thing, it actually was an interesting story about that. So when I was working at that corporation, I was listening to Personal Power. And I remember at the end of it, it says, like, you probably started this with other people. You're the only person left. And I decided to quit that cream job and start my own business. Wow. And that's how I made the millions. And it was so scary. So I literally gave back the cars and the thing, and I just went all in. And when I went to sign the lease for my first place, they gave me a assigned parking space. And as I pulled in, it said Tony Robbins on it. I go, "What?" And he was walking up. I go, "What is this?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm leaving to a different place, but my whole office is staying here. You're getting my spot." And I go, "Dude, I just listened. I go, what's the odds that I started this because of this?" And he looked at me and goes, 100%. He goes, "Keep going, Greg." Isn't that great?
You gotta be. That is great. Well, that's certainly the law of attraction and The Secret, right? All wrapped up into one. Wow. Unbelievable story. I love it. So the 30s were great. You're rocking and rolling. You got your own thing. And then you go, "Oh, shit, I'm turning 40. My guess is you didn't really care that you were 40, but would love to know, again, where you were. Do you remember your 40th birthday? Who was around you? What were you thinking? And what was going on in your head? And what was the attitude lesson at 40?
Yeah, well, 40s were great. I mean, again, at 39, 40, right at that age, I sold that business. So I had a boatload of money and nothing but free time. And it was really interesting. I took years off. I retired and basically played tennis and golf and just kind of goofed off. And then someone said, "Hey, how did you pull that off, not being able to read and write and being all this stuff?" This is why I listened to these tapes and I went to these seminars and stuff. and they asked me to speak at a university here in San Diego.
Oh, wow.
And then they passed me around like a joint at a Grateful Dead concert at every university.
Oh my
and
God.
finally a kid came up and said, you should write a book. And I go, man, that's a great goal, because I've never really read one. And so I went on that mission where I got turned down 268 times, and completely transformed my life. And here we are today. So the 40s were the most pivotal time.
Yeah, man, that is really, really cool. And again, the message that it's never too late to change. It's never too late to start. And there is always something else, right? And I want to share something that's is very powerful, because it has to do with less. The only thing I did differently is I honored my mentors by following through. And this is what I mean. Ooh.
When I wanted to be a speaker, I hunted down Les before I knew him. I said, Mr. Brown, I want to be a great speaker. Would you give me one nugget of something I could do different? And he did. I applied it, and I found him a month later. And I said, Mr. Brown, I met you a month ago. I asked for a nugget. You gave it to me. Here's what I did. What should I do next, sir?
Yeah.
What's the chance of him giving me that second nugget? 100%, because no one's ever done that. And now Les calls me for the nuggets. But the bottom line is that we've created this synergetic thing by honoring your mentors by following through.
Yeah, that is so cool. And so attitude booster number 5, whether you know it or not, is have a mentor, copy him or her. And understanding how to approach a mentor, understanding what to give to a mentor, understanding how to be of value to a mentor. That's all in month number 5, which I think currently we're producing right now, which is cool. So what a great story. And I encourage all of our gappers, the first thing you should do is go find a mentor, get a nugget, and then act on it, which is great. So we're going to round this thing down because we're about done. And you've been so giving, and man, you've been dropping big bombs on us today. It's been so great. And I know that you're going to change some gappers' lives. And I hope you guys all look up Greg Reid. I hope you all hit him on LinkedIn. I hope you all message him and tell him how much, and hit him on Twitter, how much when this goes, and Greg, this will probably hit in 2 months, what it meant. It'll be hopefully fun for you to get some new feedback. So now you turn 50, right? Who were you with at 50? What restaurant did you go to? If you did, what did you do on your 50th birthday? What was going through your head? And you said, okay, I'm half a century. Now what's in store for me for the next half? Tell us the attitude lesson of turning 50 and what's going on with you now.
I can remember that one because it was a surprise party.
Cool.
I went to a fancy hotel, and all my friends and family were there. And it was one of those, fancy brunch type of things. And it was spectacular. And my former wife gave me a Corvette.
Cool.
For my birthday. And it was pretty amazing. And by the way, I got the greatest ex-wife in the world. I know people don't say that, but in California, you don't have to hate each other. We kind of still dig each other in a great way.
Nice.
We got a kid together. And so I've got a really amazing ex-wife. If you ever want to interview someone, she'd be next on your list.
What's her name?
And Ellen Reid. Just absolutely amazing thought leader.
Ellen Reid, E-L-L-E-N.
A-L-L-Y-N.
Oh, all
Reid,
right.
R-E-I-D. And what's interesting is at that, from that time of my 50s, so I'm 56 now.
Yeah.
I've got more things accomplished
right.
that I had in the works, in my 40s. So now it feels like everything's coming to fruition.
Cool.
So all these accolades, all they are is a byproduct of my 40s of planting the seed. It's like a fruit tree.
Yeah.
I planted a boatload of fruit trees when I was 40, and now I'm getting all this fruit.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, you have given us fruit. We are eating the nectar of Greg Reid. It's so powerful, and we are so thankful that you shared your attitude with us, that you helped us navigate the bridge, helped us bridge the gap, helped us get from who we are to who we want to become, from where we are to where we want to be. If you listen to this podcast, please subscribe, please share, please follow Greg, please buy his books, please listen to his stuff. I know you got stuff on YouTube. I've been checking out some of that. Unbelievable, incredible speaker. I loved the story you told about, I think it was Evander Holyfield at the United Nations, right?
Yeah.
Guys, check out that on YouTube. It's unreal. And so, Greg, I'm just so grateful to you. Is there one last thing that you'd like to leave our gappers with? One last thought, one last word of encouragement, and then we're going to let you go enjoy San Diego.
Yeah, the secret of success is to surround ourselves with people that are getting the results that you want for yourself. And then here's a big word, today. What does that mean? Look, when I wanted to be a best-selling author, I went to Barnes & Noble and I bought every best-selling book. I didn't want to be a great writing author. I told you, can't write. So I went to those people and said, hey, how did you get that bestseller status? And I duplicated that efforts, and here we are today.
Right.
When I went to Africa to climb and summit Mount Kilimanjaro,
Wow.
I did not ask a dope-smoking surfer here in California to take me to the roof of Africa. I found the Sherpa, the porters that have climbed it 900 times.
Wow.
Wherever they put their boot print, I put my boot print. I followed successful actions. What that also means, if I was going to open a brand new restaurant chain, even though my close buddy and mentor of mine started Chuck E. Cheese, I probably wouldn't ask him because he did it 40 years ago.
Right.
I'd say, who's doing In-N-Out or Five Guys or getting the results I want for myself today, and duplicate those same efforts with their own spin. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The secret is to simply do it for yourself and put a new hubcap on it.
I love it. I love it. Well, Greg, thanks for giving us a new hubcap on our attitude. We do appreciate you. God bless you, and much success to you. And if I can ever be of service, let me know.
Keep smiling.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later. This is Glenn Bill with the Get Attitude Podcast, thanking Greg Reid for his time.